Today we're catching up in the neighborhood with Lee, a QHS MAC member whose life is as familiar and comforting as a walk down a tree-lined street. But what steps brought him to where he is today? Let's take a stroll through his life story and see what's been happening behind the scenes.
Hi, my name is Lee. I'm recording this video in the month of September 2024. I'm 53 years old. I grew up in the late 70s and 80s in southeast Nebraska. I'm the youngest, with a half-brother 8 years older. I don't have any cousins on my mom's side, but I do have a few on my dad's. The cousin closest to my age is 6 years older. My dad passed away this past May in a tractor accident at age 86. He was the youngest of 6, with 4 brothers and 1 sister. My mom was the middle child, with an older brother and a younger sister. My mom and her sister, and a sister-in-law to my dad, are the surviving members of that generation of my family. A bit about my heritage. On my dad's side, my great-great-grandparents were natives of Norway. He was a sailor who jumped ship in the Great Lake area. She came to America with her parents. They married in Chicago in the late 1860s and moved to Homestead in southeast Nebraska. Near the homestead, her uncle started 10 years earlier. On my mom's side, I remember spending holidays with my great-grandmother, who was from Czechoslovakia. Besides that, I know I have a bit of German intermixed in my heritage as well. My parents didn't pressure me, and for the most part were as supportive as they could be, and pretty much left me to my own devices. During my grade school years, the television was my babysitter, and I read a lot of books. Even though they didn't fully relate to me, I do believe they were and are proud of me. Growing up on a farm outside a small town with a population of less than 400 people, I was isolated and sheltered. I was, and to a large part still am, a goody two-shoes who cares about following the rules, which doesn't help promote a lot of social interaction with most other kids, especially high schoolers. I did have a best friend in grade school, but the dynamics weren't the same in high school. I wasn't an outcast, but I didn't fit in anywhere socially either. In college in the early 90s, I joined a Greek fraternity whose membership is limited to students of engineering, architecture, and sciences. In a house filled with brothers who accepted and respected each other, I still didn't quite fit in socially, since I didn't drink and party like most other college students. I didn't do anything that would qualify as dating while attending school. Once I did start dating, it didn't go so well for me. But in 2001, I met the woman I love, who became my wife going on over 22 years now. When she first saw my profile on the internet, she wasn't interested in any kind of relationship. She just thought I was a good person to add to her circle of friends to hang out with. After a few emails, we met on a date in the park with a simple picnic, and I brought my guitar. In spite of her original intentions, she claims I won her heart that night when I sang my original songs to her. We have many differences, but we do seem to complement each other well. We may or may not be the perfect couple, but we do seem to be perfect for each other. After many years, I earned the title of dad with her daughter, who was age 10 when we got married. And we currently have 3 rescued fur babies, 2 small pups and a cat. In general, I excelled in academics. It may not seem as impressive when considering my grade school had an average class size of 10, and I was salutatorian in a high school class of 60. My junior year in high school, I qualified to compete at the national level of FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, in accounting, in Cincinnati, Ohio, which became my first trip on an airplane. I did receive 1 B+ in high school, but otherwise I was an A student through my freshman year at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. After that, I had to realize that I had limitations on my expectations, especially when I received my first failing grade and barely passed even the second time around. That course had abstract methodology, which just wouldn't click for me. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in a newly formed computer engineering, as opposed to computer sciences with an engineering discipline. and had additional distinction of completing the honors program requirements. I'm not much of an athlete, but I prefer playing sports than watching them. I was on the football team in high school. I didn't get much game time, but my body did get a beating, mainly my knees, while scrimmaging. My dad was a crop farmer, did not raise any livestock. Unless you count the couple of years, my mom did own 2 nanny goats, which I did learn how to milk. Being older, my brother got the brunt of working on the family farm. Starting at a young age, I would work with the family, walking the fields to remove weeds. Eventually, I contributed by doing tractor field work to prepare the ground for planting in the spring. Besides farming, my dad had to have a second job. I had to watch my dad put in many hours on the farm, surround the little time he had for sleep, and to go to his second job. In college, I did cooperative education, which brought me to work with a defense systems company in Dallas. After graduation, I went to work for that company full time. The company has been through a few acquisitions and mergers, but the work groups I worked with basically stayed the same, with just the name surrounding them changing. At the end of this year, they will mark 33 years of service with that company. Music is a huge part of my life and shows a side of me many people aren't used to seeing in day-to-day interactions. Unlike my grade school classmates, I always loved singing in the annual school programs. I started playing guitar around age 12. Not anything fancy, just a basic chord strummer. In high school, I sang in chorus and swing choir. My sophomore year, I played Charlie Brown in the musical Snoopy. In my senior year, I played Professor Harold Hill in the musical The Music Man. In college, I was a member of the Varsity Men's Glee Club. After college, I participated in a couple barbershop choruses. From one of those choruses, I became a founding member of a doo-wop 50s and 60s a cappella quartet, which has been singing now for over 25 years, which is also partnered with a band configuration to do 50s and 60s rock, going on over 10 years. But with COVID-19 and the loss of our bass vocalist, we haven't performed that much lately. As to my original music, it's best categorized as folk rock. At age 18, I wrote my first song, a lullaby titled Goodnight My Children. At age 30, using a home studio of a contact through the barbershop choruses, I recorded an album with 23 songs titled From the Heart. I also designed the artwork for that album. Currently, many of those songs are on many separate sites on the internet right now. I haven't written much since then, but the following year I did write a song for my wedding vows. Around 1992, a younger member of my fraternity invited me on a trip to a Comic-Con, which started about a 10-year obsession with collecting comic books and non-sports cards, which led to some action figures and statues. I did collect some of the typical DC titles, Superman, Batman related, and Marvel titles, X-Men and Spider-Man related, but most of them were from independent publishers. The non-sports cards featured fantasy pinup comic artists, as well as scenes from movies and TV shows. Got caught up in the Beanie Baby craze as well. I was already cutting back a bit, but getting married with an instant family brought different financial priorities. What brought me to QHS? My wife. Between her daughters and her own medical challenges, she was always looking for any new answers that could help. In the spring of 2022, she discovered QHS as it was starting. Additionally, when Cynthia wanted to launch a member advocate council, the MAC group, earlier this year, somehow I was considered as a candidate, and I accepted that role under the premise that I might be able to represent a certain type of individual who otherwise otherwise might not be represented. Plus, I thought I could contribute to the MAC group with my technical skills. There is no denying the number of positive testimonies with the QHS QT-Wave device. I do think the QT-Wave device has helped my wife and daughter, and to a certain extent myself. But up to this point, it hasn't been able to drastically change the way we live day to day. With the technology of the QArc, and maybe even the next generation V9 QT-Wave device, I do believe QHS will ultimately provide the needed healing. What are my personal challenges? From the physical side, nothing that special. I'm overweight. I have high blood pressure between being overweight and a lot of stress. After breaking a couple of toes a few years ago, I have a history of blood clots now. I'm extremely nearsighted. Started wearing glasses around first grade, and at the eye doctor's direction, started wearing contacts around 5th and 6th grade. I have a receded hairline. I have some chipped teeth and a partial filling a gap that never had adult teeth to fill it. My knees will stiffen up, and it's difficult for me to sleep well. From the mental side, mainly minor memory issues, which I think mainly stem from being tired, though I also do appear to have issues which block some of my long-term memories. From the emotional side, this is the most scary healing for me. I've never had a reason for any formal testing, but my wife says that I'm on the spectrum for autism, i.e., contributes to black and white considerations, awkward social interactions, don't like incomplete sets, and desensitized. I don't always feel when I've been cut or hurt, and I can't taste many seasonings. My wife wouldn't be surprised if my senses overwhelm me after the QArc experience. View of the future. It's difficult for me to dream and plan until I have something tangible to launch from. I do believe a quantum shift with the aid of QHS is coming, but until it is here, my decisions and goals are just to work towards dealing with the limitations and fears to get to the next day and to get the trip to the QArc. A full quantum shift resets my wife and myself to the beginning of our marriage, giving us the opportunity to reconnect and redevelop a real partnership and the possibility of having kids together. It resets our daughter to the beginning of young adulthood, giving her the ability of having independence from us and others. I look forward to the time that we may fully enjoy life and have opportunities to give to others without the fear of putting ourselves in difficult situations. Here's to the future.
Join us on the Prequel, where every story matters and every voice is heard. Because here at QHS, we're all about healing, learning, and growing together.